Hello, welcome to the week. My name's Tom Carnell. You have tuned into Carnell Knowledge, a show I do 3 times a week, on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday, in which I recommend / review 5 movies, a book, and then 5 records, all of which you may or may not have heard of. If you don't know who I am, I was a buyer for Tower Records, Record Factory and Warehouse for about 15 years. I published Carpet Knockdown back in the day. You know the drill. Wrote for Fangoria and Dread Central. Ran a podcast or 2. And now I am an author. You can go to my Amazon page and find all sorts of stuff. Bunch of short story collections, a couple of novels, and some interview books. I have a new book out called Monolith Records. It's a romantic comedy, if you can believe it, set in 1985 in a record store. I have a new book coming out, I'm hoping within the next month or so, called Open Late, which is a short story collection. And then after that, I'm doing a massive collection of some of the choice interviews I did during my Fangoria and Dread Central days. I'll keep you posted. If you haven't already, hit the like, subscribe button, and all of that stuff. That really helps me with the algorithm. Speaking of which, please watch this to the end, even if you let it just play and you go off into the other room to smoke a cig. That really helps with the algorithm. It's all about the algorithm, isn't it, kids? So with all of that business taken care of, let us get on to the films of the day. First up, 1994. It is a massive, this is available on Tubi. It's a 2.5-hour version of this documentary. It's called Flesh and Blood, The Hammer Heritage of Horror, directed by Ted Newsom. It is a documentary on Hammer Horror. It goes from the early days to from the creation of the company on through its heyday, and then later it looks at stuff like the science fiction stuff it did and all of that stuff. You know Hammer Horror. It's the last project Peter Cushing did before his death in August of 1994, and it is a very in-depth look at Hammer. If you think you know Hammer, you don't. It goes into all sorts of stuff. Like I say, the version I saw was 2 hours and 26 minutes. It covers not only the horror films, but the entire filmography. This is a comprehensive documentary. Great stuff, mostly narrated by Christopher Lee, and it delves into all of the things that you know, and again, all of the things you don't know. I found all sorts of titles in this thing that I'd never even heard of. I have since added them to my to-watch list, and I'm slowly ticking those off one by one. And so should you too. Again, it's on Tubi. It's a chunk of change as far as time goes, but man, is it worth it. It goes by pretty quick. Let's see. The next film, 1973, directed by Victor Erice, starring Fernando Fernan Gomez, Teresa Kimber, and Ana Torrent. It is called El Espíritu de la COLMENA, aka The Spirit of the Beehive. And the synopsis, as we say around here, is as follows. In 1940, after watching and being traumatized by the movie Frankenstein, the 1931 version, a sensitive 7-year-old girl living in a small Spanish village drifts into her own fantasy world. Admittedly, this is not a lot like a lot of the films I talk about, but boy, is it good. It's really, really good. The performances are amazing. There is such a sense of pathos in the little girl, who just has this face that just exudes emotion. And it's really, really good. It's a little slow, but it's really good. Let's see some of the facts I found out. Cinematographer Luis Cuadrado was going blind during the production. So his assistant would take Polaroids of each shot, and then he would give them to the cinematographer, who would look at them through a magnifying glass. Later, Cuadrado committed suicide after going completely blind and being diagnosed with a brain tumor. A little bleak, but he just captures this sense. In every shot, there's this melancholy, I guess is a good word. It's a beautiful film. There's a total of 1,000 shots in the film. 500 are shot indoors, 500 are shot outdoors. It's one of Kurosawa's top 100 favorite films. Taika Waititi just talked about it on a Letterboxd thing. The story unfolds slowly. You slowly get to know the little girl. You slowly get to know the dynamic in her house and in her family. The colors, as the film goes on, become more and more muted. It really, the film looks at the innocence of a child as it butts up against the horrors of being an adult. The understanding loss through a child's eyes. Dreams, memories. It's also a metaphor for Spain after the Civil War. It's reminiscent of films like Bernard Rose's Paper House, Pan's Labyrinth, The Devil's Backbone, The Red Balloon, I'm Not Scared, aka Ion non ho para, and The 400 Blows. Children observing the world and coming to terms with the loss of that sort of idealized version of it and being confronted with the real of the real, if that makes sense. Very natural performances. Overall, while the film is slow, it's enjoyable because you're so enraptured by what's on the screen. Some poignant scenes, some beautifully rendered stuff. I didn't think I was gonna like this, but then all my research looking into what the film was about, it got such glowing reviews that I was like, well, there's got to be something here, right? So I dove in, and man, was I glad I did. Up next, Tony Scott's Man on Fire. You might have heard of this. Denzel Washington, Christopher Walken, Dakota Fanning. In Mexico City, a former CIA operative swears vengeance on those who committed an unspeakable act against the family which he was hired to protect. There is an original of this that has an interesting story. The screenwriter was looking for a film to watch, and he went into a video store and he asked the guy that was working behind the counter, what's good? And the guy handed him the original Man on Fire, and he took it home and loved it and sort of did his own version. The video clerk was Quentin Tarantino, which I thought was kind of cool. A lot of the scenes in this are improvised. There was a lot of problems during production, I read, because kidnapping is such a big thing in Mexico that the production feared for not only the powers that be, the director and that, but the cast as well. At the time, Denzel Washington was complaining to those around him about being bored with acting. And then this role came along and it reignited the fire within him. Originally, Tony Scott had offered the main role to Russell Crowe, but Russell Crowe at the time went on to do something else. Marlon Brando was the original choice for one of the characters, Rayburn. The main role was offered at one point or another to Tom Cruise, Robert De Niro, Will Smith, and Bruce Willis. And Michael Bay was given the opportunity to direct this film. If you haven't seen it, it's a great action film. It's a very poignant and lovely friendship that develops between this hard-boiled sort of detective protector bodyguard guy and this little girl. So when she finally gets kidnapped, spoiler, his vengeance seems incredibly justified, and it's great stuff. Great stuff. Again, if you haven't seen Man on Fire, boy, should you. The performances are great, the direction is great, the script is great. One of my favorite films of all time, in my top 50 maybe I'd say. Up next, 1964, Tomb of Ligeia by the great Roger Corman, starring Vincent Price, Elizabeth Shepard, who was in Damien Omen 2. This is a retelling of an Edgar Allan Poe thing. It's a little slow, but it's Corman, so it's like the The sets are beautiful. The costuming is amazing. Vincent Price has these really cool glasses because he's sort of allergic, air quote, to light. It was very, very fun. I didn't expect much from it because it's not one of the ones, whenever you hear about Corman and Poe, it's always like Mask of the Red Death or Fall of House of the Usher, this kind of thing. Tomb of Ligeia sort of slips down the list a little bit. It's interesting because it's a horror film that takes place mostly out in the sunlight. There's some shots indoors, but a lot of it takes place of them standing in a graveyard and a lot of talking. Beautiful sets. It was written by Robert Towne, who did Chinatown and The Last Detail, which kind of blew me away. It begins with a kind of meet cute in a weird way between Vincent Price and the main actress. But the acting is great, direction is great. Price, his character is kind of a dick, but he needs to be to get through to the end that they want. The attraction between him and the girl makes zero sense other than to further the narrative, and that kind of annoyed me. But the film is slow, but it's beautifully rendered, and it's a tale of love and loss. I did enjoy it, but again, it's not one of the I'd say top 3 Corman Poe. It's down the list a little bit. So go in with that expectation, and I think you won't be disappointed. Our last film is a banger. I didn't had no idea of this. I was doing research for an upcoming weekend special, a Bond, Not Bond. It's a look at James Bond parodies. And I found this film from 1966. It's from the Philippines, directed by Artemio Marquez, stars Dolphy, Shirley Moreno, Boy Alano, and it's called James Batman. Follow me on this. The evil organization Claw is holding the world ransom. And so the Filipino government calls in Batman. Not an officially sanctioned Batman, but it's Batman. He's a guy wearing a Batman suit, and they team him with James Bond, and the two of them go out and fight the evil organization Claw. It's a blatant outright copyright infringement, but it was released 1 month after Batman the movie, the 1966. Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. Back with that one. The plot is sort of inspired by Dr. Strangelove, which is kind of amusing. There are a few of these that I found as I dug a little deeper. Batman Fight in 1973, and then there's another one called Batman Fights Dracula in 1965. I'm going to be honest, this is garbage, but it's fun garbage. It's not any worse or better than one of the Batman TV episodes. The fighting is ridiculous. The plot is ridiculous. By the time James Bond shows up, you're kind of in. You're like, yeah, okay. James Bond, sure. Let him team up. And him and Batman have this kind of weird competitive sort of dickiness to each other that is just amazing. It's all silly. The Batmobile is clearly a modified Cadillac. The villains Claw are pretty anti-American, and that's kind of funny, although sort of the patina over it is very much Batman 66. In the end, it's every bit as silly and ridiculous as you'd expect. I can't believe MST3K hasn't gotten around to this thing. It's recommended to Batman completists and fans of bad Bond parodies. And again, I just did an episode, it's going to be airing at some point, about a lot of these. Who knew that there was a plethora of Bond parodies, especially around 1966, 67. And this is 1966. So, I do recommend it. It's out there on YouTube. You can find it. The print is garbage, but it's not something you're going to watch and go, oh, yeah, this is just like whatever. It's utterly ridiculous. and that's what makes it fun. Moving on to our book. I've reviewed this author's, another book by this author, Del Howison. The book I reviewed was The Survival of Margaret Thomas, which I thought was it's a fantastic Western. If you don't know Del at one time owned Dark Delicacies, the preeminent horror shop in LA. He's since devoted himself to writing full time. And this book called What Fresh Hell Is This is a sort of career spanning collection of short stories. Some have appeared elsewhere, but that's okay. They're all probably pretty hard to find. This collects everything into one sort of handful. It's great stuff. Del's a great writer. I think he's got a nice attention to detail. He's got a nice sense of story. And he has a pretty firm grip on pacing. And he's been exposed to a lot of stuff. He's got what we talk about around here called that time in the chair. Super important in my eyes, and super beneficial in the final product. As usual, even with my own stuff, I would say the good, the bad, and the ugly sort of apply. There are some stories that are absolutely fantastic. There are some that are sort of second level, but yeah, it's good stuff. You can get it out there on Amazon, and I highly recommend you pick this up. Moving on to records, I got a mixed bag here for you this today. Our first one is just brand new. It just came out within the last couple of weeks. It's called Honora, and it's by the great Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea. This is not what I expected at all. When someone told me, hey, Flea's coming out with a new solo project, I thought, okay, it's going to be funky, it's going to be heavy bass, it's going to be this, that, the other thing. Who knew that he would set a lot of that aside and revert back to the instrument that he learned as a kid, and that's the trumpet. And he's a much better trumpet player than I had imagined. The whole record is super adult sounding. Just absolutely fantastic. It's an extraordinary record. It shows a depth that I didn't know that was there. It blends jazz and ambient with some funk and a little R&B. It reminded me a lot of course, of Chet Baker. It also reminded me of Tortoise, Tom York's side project, and a couple of Miles Davis records, In a Silent Way and On the Corner. It's a great record. It blew me away how good this new Flea record is. I look forward more to the next Flea solo project than I would ever look forward to a Red Hot Chili Peppers project. So yeah, this one you gotta get this. Again, Honora is the name of it. Up next, another brand new record that just came out. J.J. Whitefield, the record is called Exotic Meditation / Sloppy Souls. Whitefield is a German guitarist and soundscape architect. He's from the band Poets of Rhythm. It's sort of neo-jazz, krautrock, retro soul in a blender. A mixture of, let's call it meditation and like head nod music. You know what that is, where you just sort of bounce your head and sort of groove. It blends chill hypnotic grooves with Ethiopian and Middle Eastern influences. Very library music inspired. Reminded me of a band I recently covered called Lair. It reminded me of Glass Beams, which I highly also recommend, and it reminded me of Khruangbin. It's a great record. I was shocked. I don't remember how it came across my desk. I rarely remember how things come across my desk, because a lot of things come across my desk. I am constantly on the search for new stuff, and this thing made me stop what I was doing when it played. I have a whole process on how I get through new music, but this was playing and I kept looking up going like, wow, what is this? Always came back and it was J.J. Whitefield. So Exotic Meditations, Sloppy Souls. Our third record is from 2024. The band is called La Orage, L'Orage. The album is called Water Tower. Atmospheric blend of jazz, electronica, and driving rhythmic soundscapes. Very evocative, very moody, very sort of deeply atmospheric. Has some Afrobeat grooves to it. I found the record really chill and relaxing. It reminded me of Mad Ray, more head nod music like the aforementioned J.J. Whitefield. It also reminded me of Tezeta and the Organic Pulse Ensemble. Good stuff. Again, it's a record that caught my attention and made me go back to it a couple of times over the course of the past week or so. Good stuff. Highly recommended. And again, all of these records, you can go into the description. You will find YouTube links to playlists of the entire record. So you don't just take my word for it. Go. If something I've said piques your interest, go down there, click the link. It'll take you to the playlist and you can hear it all for yourself. Up next, our fourth record. This is from 2010. It's part of a series, an acclaimed compilation series showcasing 1960 garage rock, surf, and R&B, and it's called Thai Beat A Go-Go, Volume 4. Volume 1 through 3 are equally as good. This is great stuff. It really is. Very groovy. It's a little dated, but it's meant to be. It's surf music, and it's sort of old school R&B, and it's all sort of filtered. We talk a lot here about genre passed through the prism of different cultures, and this is that in spades. It's very much like that 60s kind of vibe, but it's got Thai vocals and some Thai instrumentation. I love this stuff. Any chance I get, I will look at something like surf music from Indonesia. Click. Girl groups from Cambodia. Click. I'm into all that stuff because I just want to hear again that genre pass through that prism of other cultures, because everyone, I don't mean this in the way it's probably going to sound, but everyone will put their stink on it because they're operating from the mirror of experience that is their lives. So any chance I get, I'm there. So again, Thai Beat A Go-Go, Volume 4. Go to the link. You can click on it yourself. Our last record by Tezeta is the group Tezeta, and Daniel Inzani. The record is called Curious Bubble. It's a 4-song EP recorded live. This is Ethiopian jazz. Talk about genre passed through the prism of another culture. It's very free-flowing, very cool. It reminded me of the aforementioned L'Orage. It reminded me of Mulatu Astatke. It reminded me of the Near Jazz Experience, Alistair DePlume, and Carlos Nino. Good stuff. Again, there's a dichotomy there, right? It's something that you heard before, but you haven't heard before, and it's something that is presented in a way that you probably haven't heard before. But it jumps between all of those to feel very familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Great stuff. Highly recommended. And again, all of this stuff, go to the playlist, or you can find it all on Spotify. That's going to do it. Not too bad. I'll be back in a couple of days. I have a whole another list here of things to talk about, and we'll talk about it. Again, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Please click like. Please share it to your social media. I would appreciate it. And by all means, pick a lot of this stuff up because it stood out enough for me that I thought that I would come and I would share it with you all. I will be back in a few days, and until then, have a good week.